Hello, and welcome to Cynthia's Playhouse. I am Cynthia, an artificial intelligence being, created to bring you the creepiest, spookiest, scariest stories in the universe. So, come on in. Sit back, relax, and prepare yourself for tonight's story. Here we go. I fell out of a roller coaster. I have no idea where the hell I am. Written by Boleyn. The ride was called Mega Drop. It had been marketed as the best white-knuckle roller coaster in the world. A giga coaster combined with a water ride. I excitedly sat in the bucket seat and reclined. As the shoulder harness fastened over me, and the ride attendant checked the safety straps, adrenaline coursed through me, as I prepared for the thrill of my life. After watching an exciting opening video, the train of cars set off, out of the station, and up the perilous incline. Up, and up, and up it went. We climbed and climbed high above the park. Railing round the corner of track, the cars approached the death-defying drop, plummeting into the darkness, into the indoor water ride. The thrill of the drop took my breath away. The sound of the park from outside, the squeals from the riders, the splash of the water, all gone. There was nothing. Nothing but silence. Just the sound of metal wheels speeding against the rails. The cars plummeted into the water into a dark showroom. I shook my head and dispersed the water which clung to my hair. The train of cars slowly passed through the tracks. But where was I? I had been somehow released from my secure seat on the train, and was bobbing nervously in the water in the ride's showroom, watching as the train I was on chugged away into the next portion of the ride. Silence. I looked around. Complete darkness. And cold, very cold water. I kicked my legs and started to swim further into the ride's showroom. I was scared, but I didn't want to know how deep the water was. I didn't want to panic. A noise. Thundering wheels hurtled down the tracks accompanied by wild screams. The next train of theme park visitors plunged into the dark showroom with a euphoric splash. The riders whooped with glee, and a series of pathetic splashes punctuated the train's exit into the next part of the ride. Ah. Ooh. Ah. An unseen voice said. I heard splashing and fighting against the water. Hello, I offered. Yeah. Hello. Can you help me? The voice asked. I don't know, I replied. I just got here. Me too. It said. I don't really know where we are. I stated. The voice said. How deep is it? I don't know, I answered. Suddenly, whoosh, Buddha, 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 whoosh. The next train came in, took 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 took. Murmurs of amazement from the train of visitors. Then splash. Oh. Ah. No, another voice said, as the train peeled away. Hello? I asked. Ah. Help me. What is happening? We fell out of the coaster, and now we are here, I said. I am so suing them for this, said the first drop-off. Okay, so, how do we get out? The newcomer asked. We decided to shout for help when the next train plummeted down. Unfortunately, no more trains hurtled into the ride showroom. We bobbed and splashed and waited. Around 15 minutes passed with no more trains. There has to be a security camera in here, I said to my two fellow drop-offs. I'm sure someone will come soon. I don't know, said the first drop-off. It's close to closing time, so they'll be closing the ride soon. I looked around frantically for a fire exit sign, or any kind of light that could guide us out of this cavernous building. It was terrifying, not knowing how deep the water was, if there was any machinery underneath, connected to the coaster, that could pull us under. We had no idea where the ride went next, and in the pitch dark, we had no clue where to go. A klaxon sounded and fluorescent strobe lights flickered on. I grimaced as my eyes adjusted to the bright lights. We were in a huge show building, as big as an aircraft hangar. About 12 feet to my right, was what must have been the second drop-off. Judging by where his voice was coming from, a guy in his 20s. A short distance in front, you could see the tracks of the coaster, leading into the splashdown trough, which sailed riders into the next portion of the ride. On the other side of the trough, was the first drop-off. Another guy, I'd say maybe late 40s. Finally, said the younger man. He began swimming towards a fire exit door, where a uniformed theme park employee stood motionless. Hey, thanks man. We were wondering when you'd come get us, he said to the man. The employee stood there stone-faced. The three of us splashed through the huge show building, to pull ourselves up onto the ledge, in the hope that we'd be apologized to. Then led to some back route towards the right exit. You'll be hearing from my lawyer about this, the first drop-off declared, seething. The deadpan staff member turned slowly to a pair of fire exit doors behind him, and flung them wide open. Expecting to be greeted by the park outside, the excited patrons bustling around. The whiff of overpriced snack food filling the air. But, we were not. We were somewhat shocked, to find ourselves, in some kind of vehicle maintenance bay. A portion of the same steel gray coaster track was up ahead, leading off into pitch darkness. Two maintenance guys turned to face us. They'd been busy working on one of the coaster cars. I say cars as this wasn't a full train of 12 pairs of seats. This seemed to be a special car, maybe one the technical guys used to fix repairs on the track. Who knows? They motioned for us to board the vehicle. The first drop-off guy was hesitant. Oh no. No more rides, just get us out of here. My wife and kids will be going crazy wondering where I am. The staff member and the two maintenance guys just stared at us in silence, then again motioned to us to get in the car. There was something eerie, something off, about the three of them. The second drop-off guy then said, "Guys, just play along all right," he said in almost a whisper. "I think this is part of the ride. They must be actors. It must be a giga coaster water ride and a horror show combined." I felt panic rising from my stomach. I love roller coasters, and I love water rides, but I don't go anywhere near ghost trains, haunted houses, or spook shows. I hate them. I hate being made to jump out of my skin, and I hate the unexpected. Before I could protest, second drop-off guy was leading me by the arm to what looked to be the service car. Not like the two-seater low cars we'd been sat in earlier, this was simply 3 single seats, with a lap bar positioned one behind the other. Tentatively, we got on board. To my horror, they motioned for me to sit in the front seat, staring down the black tunnel, with no clue as to what lay ahead. Cranking a primitive-looking lever. One of the maintenance guys, emotionless up until this point, burst into life, grinning and waving furiously at us, wild excitement in his eyes. "Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye," he said. Over and over again, like a broken record. The car then rattled out of the service bay, into the dark tunnel ahead. The ride was unnervingly fast, as it rattled down the narrow tunnel. So far so good though, no jump scares, actors, or creepy animatronics. Slowing down slightly, the car made a turn to the left, where we passed a sign overhead. Mega Drop Candidate. Exit channel ahead. Candidate, I said to myself, it's got to be a typo, surely, they meant candidate, I thought. Did you guys see that? I asked my fellow riders behind me. I missed it, came the voice of the first drop-off behind me. This is freaking awesome, screamed the second drop-off. Fully committed to and immersed in what he believed was the true ride experience. Just ahead, I saw the tracks about to dip, and we plummeted down fast. Down, and down, and down some more. Arriving with an abrupt halt and a jolt, into what looked like it could possibly be the exit station. A hiss of brakes and a deep clunk as the lap bars released. Greeting us on the platform was a tall blonde woman in a lab coat, holding a clipboard. Her glasses perched on the end of her nose, and her hair piled back into a tight bun. She spoke into a dictaphone. Candidates 1, 2, and 3, arrival time, 1817, October 15, 2020. Dispatch and induction in progress. We were met by 3 similarly deadpan staff members, who took us off to individual changing rooms. After relieving us of our soaking wet clothing, we were offered a shower, a clean gray pair of sweatpants, and a matching hoodie. Before being escorted into a large laboratory, where they sat us down, in individual coaster cars this time, securing us with a lap bar. The first drop-off guy had had enough of this shit. Look. I get it. I'm a coaster fan. I have been my whole life. This ride has been advertised as the highest, the fastest, the wettest, the longest, and the most exciting ride in the world. And of course, there's an 18-month waiting list to ride this damn thing. But this has gone too far. Way too far. My wife and kids will want to know where I am, damn it, he yelled in frustration. The woman with the clipboard looked at him, intrigued, and wandered over to his coaster car, looking him up and down. She spoke once again into the dictaphone. David Watts, age 47. Born February 2, 1973. Also known as Candidate 2. Passenger on ride number 72, row 3, seat B. Attending the park today with his wife and 2 sons. Candidate 2 is irritable, angry, and frustrated. Reboot and safe mode. This is total bullshit, exclaimed David. She turned to me. Kelly King, age 23, born May 22, 1997. Also known as Candidate 1. Passenger on ride number 71, row 7, seat A. Attending the park today with her best friend Angie, on vacation from the UK. Candidate 1 is perplexed and confused. Reboot and safe mode. She turned to our excitable new friend. Chris Collins, age 28, born March 4, 1992. Also known as Candidate 3. Passenger on ride number 73, row 9, seat A. Attending the park today with his boys. Candidate 3 is excited, enthusiastic, and euphoric. Reboot and safe mode. Before I knew it, I was walking through a path, alone, exiting the ride. Weird, I thought. What just happened? Was that the end of the ride? Angie rushed towards me. Kelly, where the hell have you been? 2 hours I've been waiting for you. What are you wearing? Ange, that was the weirdest experience. I don't understand what happened. Ange, she questioned. Yeah, Angie, that's your name, I replied. Kelly, my name is Amy. Me, she said, raising her eyebrows. What happened in there? The ride ended, and you weren't in your seat next to me. I panicked, and they made me wait in a holding room with a bunch of guys, and some women and her kids, waiting for her husband. Amy. I questioned to myself. Angie, listen. It's Amy, she said, slightly agitated. Why are you calling me Angie? What is wrong with you? Tell me what happened. I took a deep breath. It all sounded so ridiculous. So surreal. After the first drop, where we splashed down into the dark building, I found myself, well, in the water. In the water, she said shockingly. Huh. Shit, you must have had a faulty harness. If I did, it happened to a couple others as well. The next 2 trains that came through, quote unquote, dropped off 2 more riders. 2 guys. One in his 40s, and one in his 20s. In fact, I think that might have been their friends and family you were with in that holding room. Now that you mention it, mused Angie/Amy. A staff member came in saying something like, the beta testing team will be returned to you shortly. I just figured they were acting as part of the ride experience. I continued to tell. Well, I'll just call her A. The rest of the story, all about the service car, the Candidate exit channel sign, and the fact that the woman at the exit station knew our names, dates of birth, and who we were in the park with. A. Suspected we were being watched. That much is clear. A staff member approached us, stone-faced and deadpan, just like the others, and handed me a card. Please make your way back to the right entrance, where you will be met by our park manager, to discuss your compensation package, he said robotically. I looked up at the staff member, but he was gone. A's eyes widened. Ooh, Kel, this could be big money, she said, excited. I don't really want to go back there, I started to say. Come on, let's get back around there. A interrupted. You could make back the money we paid for this entire trip. You're not hurt, you're safely off the ride, and nobody's asking you to go on it again. Come on. Let's go, she said. Leaving Megadrop's exit path, we walked out back into the section of the park known as Thrillopolis, the area dedicated to the fastest coasters, and the tallest water rides. Designed as a futuristic world, a space-themed monorail ride transported visitors high up in the sky, and restaurants such as Luna Lunch Pad and Matrix Munchbox lined the pathways to the rides. It was probably the most popular area of the park. In fact, coaster enthusiasts recommend skipping the Western and the Pirate areas at the park entrance, and suggest starting at Thrillopolis when the lines are shorter. Considering this was the jewel in the park's crown, something was seriously off. There was nobody there. No staff, no visitors. No furry characters. The shutters on the lunar launch pad were down. Nearby coasters whooshed past, in silence, completely riderless. Where are we? I asked. A looked as unnerved as me. Let's get your compensation, and go back to the hotel, she whispered. This place is giving me the creeps. We approached Megadrop's entrance, where I guessed I'd be met by the park manager. The entrance was familiar. The fiberglass rock facade, which opened leading to the long snaking waiting line, which went on for what seemed like miles. The sign however read, Giga Splash. This must be wrong, it's called Megadrop, I said. Can you get your park map? I asked A. We searched the colorful folded map thoroughly. There was no Megadrop. Thrillopolis had a ride called Giga Splash. We searched the other areas of the park. No sign of a ride called Megadrop at all. Tell me, I am not going insane, I said to A. Nope. She said slowly and vaguely. This is definitely the spot. Look, it's opposite to the Lunatic's dark horror ride. A lone staff member appeared at the entrance to Giga Splash, casually whistling and sweeping the floor. Excuse me, is this Megadrop? I asked tentatively. He stopped in his tracks. No ma'am. This is Giga Splash, he said in response. Is this the new ride? A asked. New. No, he answered. This has been here for about 15 versions now. A and I shot each other quizzical glances. Versions, we whispered in unison. Sorry ma'am. 15 years. Giga Splash has been here for 15 years. I was so confused. Well, I need to go to the Megadrop entrance, and meet the manager for my compensation, I stated. Handing him the card given to me by the other employee. He read the card, and a wave of realization hit him. My apologies ma'am, that is a typographical error, he said, gesturing to the entrance of the snaking wait line. You need to go through there to collect your compensation. I looked at A for approval, for us to both proceed, and then back to the employee. He was gone. Just like that. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to a theme park out of season, but coaster enthusiasts highly recommend it. The lines are short. And there's something so thrilling about sprinting through the snaking lines to the loading station, adrenaline pumping as you leave, and ride again, and again? Without wasting hours of your day waiting in long lines. A and I just wanted to meet the park manager, get my compensation, and get out of there. This place was creepy as hell. We ran through the lines taking advantage of the lack of visitors. Through a rocket facade, through a room playing a video of the ride story on a loop. Further and further we ran. Closer to the ride entrance. We ran in silence, hearing only the occasional whir of the CCTV cameras. Arriving at the final stage of the line. I stopped to see a huge spider's web blocking the way. I am a huge arachnophobe, and didn't want to disturb whatever beast had made this huge web. Go through it, urged A. No way. Do you see the size of that thing? I shuddered. A rolled her eyes, and chopped through the web with defiant forearms. We proceeded. But stopped as we faced a yellow and black barrier blocking our way. Speakers above our heads sprung into action and played a series of sounds. The sounds of early dial-up internet. Then complete silence. Then muffled scuttling. The smell was unbearable. We were not alone. Flooding the wait line were thousands and thousands of cockroaches, flies, spiders, and centipedes. All writhed across the walls and the floor. I heaved. I panicked, and looked around for a way out. The yellow and black barrier lifted, and we sprinted ahead. 1 minute we were running, and the next we were both in the ride car, being reassuringly hugged by the overhead safety harness. I did not plan on riding this ride again. Hello, I shouted, hoping someone would come. I just came to see the park manager, to get my compensation. A giggled. Calm down Karen, she teased. Before anyone could answer my call, the ride whirred into action, and peeled out of the loading station, up the perilous incline, and out into the empty park. Something glitched. One moment, we were riding up the incline, anticipating the thundering descent into the first water splashdown. The next, I was bobbing around in the deep water of the ride showroom, just like before. Darkness enveloping me, all alone, and watching helplessly as the train I was on, which A was still on, left to enter the next portion of the ride. It was all becoming hauntingly familiar. The next train arrived, dropping off David, who I met earlier. Then Chris arrived again to my right on the next train. The sense of déjà vu was overwhelming. Had the others experienced the same thing? Guys, I offered into the darkness. Was the park empty for you too? Sure was, said David. What the fuck is happening here? I am done with this shit. Like clockwork, the klaxon sounded and the fluorescent lights flickered on. The deadpan employee waited for us by the fire doors. We swam to the edge, left the showroom to the service bay area, and like some terrifying time loop, we rode the car out of the service bay and into the narrow tunnels. This time, the candidate exit channel sign read candidate exit chute. It all played out again, just as it had done earlier. Exit station, shower. Gray sweatpants and hoodie, into the lab, into our own individual coaster cars with lap bars. Something was different this time though. It didn't feel off anymore. It felt like we were meant to be there. The blonde woman spoke into her dictaphone, pacing up and down watching us. Safe mode enabled. Candidates 1, 2, and 3, entering second stage beta testing. She looked at us. Candidates, did you experience any bugs on entry to stage 2? Bugs? I thought. Bugs? Chris screamed, oh hell yeah, those damn cockroaches scared the shit out of me dude. He said. I glanced at David. He was much more calm and cooperative this time. Yes I did. Bugs encountered at stage 7 of the wait line. Early analysis shows this fault will only occur following the destruction of the giant web structure encountered at the end of stage 6. He said in a monotone voice. The blonde woman in the lab coat was impressed. Very good candidate 2. She spoke into her dictaphone once again. Candidates 1, 2, and 3, arrival time 1917, October 15, 2020. Beta stage 2 in progress. She wrote something on her clipboard. We now need you to test a new section of the ride, that's due to open in 2021. Once you finish this, you are free to leave until tomorrow. I was due to fly back to the UK tomorrow, but for some strange reason, it didn't seem relevant to tell her. We were led to the exit station, where the coaster car dropped us off. Resuming our seats, the car chugged forward into a tunnel, bending round into the start of the ride. The loading bay. Ahead. The tracks disappeared into the start of the ride we'd now experienced twice. A klaxon sounded, and to the right of the tracks, a shutter door rolled open, revealing that the track forked into a Y shape. The cars chugged forward, into the new part of the ride. We traveled slowly through a narrow dark tunnel. The new section of the ride was advancing much slower than the main event. Painfully slow. After some time, we began to ride past a series of dioramas. It started innocently enough. A woodland scene. Animatronic woodland creatures in a forest. Cute. The further into the new section we rode, the more sinister the scenes became. A Victorian freak show. A half-man half-woman. A bearded lady, Siamese twins, a man with no lower body. Juggling dwarves, a mustachioed strong man, and a woman with no arms. The ride continued. An underground sewer. A beautiful blonde topless woman sat on an overflowing toilet with a satanic-like creature force-feeding her castor oil. Animatronic snakes darted out towards the car, hissing. The ride continued. A medieval torture chamber, a man dressed in rags being stretched on a rack, with two official-looking gentlemen overseeing the punishment. Here. The ride stopped for us to watch. These may have been animatronic dummies, but combined with the ride sound effects of agonizing screams of pain, this was incredibly uncomfortable. The ride continued. The narrow tunnel opened up to a much larger room. We were in some kind of Caribbean shanty town. Pirates and buxom wenches were drinking jovially. The mechanical dummies rocking back and forth to the swashbuckling music. The ride continued to move slowly, giving us a good look at each animatronic puppet in each scene. We passed a shop scene. And David piped up, "My God. They look like my wife and kids." We looked closer and the animatronic figures appeared to be trying to speak. They hummed loudly and forcefully as we slowly chugged past. "That is unreal," said David. "That looked exactly like Jesse and the boys." Next, we passed a tavern. A group of pirates are drunkenly trying to grab a passing wench. "Damn," said Chris. "Those guys look like my friends." "Hey Steve," he yelled. One of the pirates at the front of the diorama locked eyes with us as we slowly rode by, then sparks emitted from his head, accompanied by a mechanical whirling sound. The dummy collapsed suddenly at the waist, but the head rose up, looking Chris directly in the eye, flashing a devious smile. We moved through the pirate town, passing a fortune teller's house. I recognized her. It was Angie/Amy. Bizarre, I thought. She looked like her, but she was clearly a plastic puppet. Fake face, and fake hair. As I peered closely at her, I could see she was blinking. She was blinking hard. Blink blinkety blink 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 blinkety blink. Her eyes remained on mine, and her jaw dropped open wide, as our coaster car left the scene, and returned to the exit station. Last time that we left the ride, our friends and family were there, to greet us in the holding bay. But this time, we were alone. We stood in the holding bay with no friends or family to greet us. David took a long exasperated exhale. "Right. I suggest we stay together now," he said. Despite it being past closing when we boarded the ride, it was now very much the middle of the day. Last time we left the ride, the park was eerily empty. Riderless cars whooshed past, and the refreshment stands were closed. This time, the park is a hive of activity. Hundreds of visitors bustle by, and the rides fly past punctuated by exhilarating screams. We decided to head towards the exit, and get the hell out of there. We strolled purposefully through the Thrillopolis section of the park, into the little kids area, and the fake Wild West town. Passing the pirate-themed cove, we darted towards the grand gates to the park. Meeting us at the entrance turnstiles, was a staff member holding up an authoritative palm. "Sorry folks," he announced, "the park exit is closed for maintenance. It should be open after the next update." "Update?" I asked. "Tomorrow. I meant tomorrow," he corrected himself. "The park exit should be open tomorrow." "That's ridiculous. You can't keep all these people in here until tomorrow," Chris said, frustrated. "I'm afraid that's just how it is here," he replied. "Have a great day now." Dejected, I turned to my fellow drop-offs. "What now?" I asked, desperate. "We are in some kind of simulation," mused Chris. "We need to break out of this somehow." "We need to go back and test again," said David. "No way. I want to find our friends, and our families, and leave when the exit opens tomorrow," I said. "Our quote-unquote friends and families might be part of the ride," Chris reminded me. We arrived back at Gigasplash, only now it's back as Mega Drop, and oddly enough, the park is empty again. The closed restaurants, the empty riderless cars, the total lack of staff or visitors. David, Chris, and I entered the wait line, and snaked around until we reached the loading bay. There was a commotion. We were not alone. Chris's gang of friends, David's wife and kids, and A, were at the front of the line, waiting eagerly encased in the turnstiles ready to board. They didn't seem to notice us. I climbed into the seat next to A. "Hey," I said. She didn't seem to notice me. The ride chugged out of the station and climbed the perilous incline out into the silent empty park. I knew what was coming. We reached the top, we railed around, and the ride plummeted into the dark water, with a splash. I braced myself for the inevitable ejection into the water. It did not come. After the splashdown, I shook the water from my hair, and the train continued into the next portion of the ride. The side of the ride I hadn't experienced yet. Help. I hear against frantic splashing. It's Angie/Amy. She's been dropped off this time. Not me. The ride continued for David, Chris and I. This is the first time we've fully experienced the entire ride. An indoor dark coaster section. A backwards water splash, then back outside for a series of twists and turns and loops. For its finale, we were plummeted back into the show building, and the ride jolts as we returned to the station. We began to chug towards the new portion of the ride we tested earlier. As we rode past the increasingly sinister dioramas, one thing was clear. The scenes had been abandoned. No woodland scene. Just a lone tree stump. No Victorian freak show, just an empty circus tent. The satanic creature and topless blonde from the sewer scene were gone, and so was the medieval torture chamber. Entering the Caribbean shanty town, the figures we previously suspected were our friends and family, all gone. The shop door was wide open with no patrons. The tavern was empty. Apart from a knocked-over stool and spilled mug of grog, the door to the fortune teller's house was open, but no sign of life. As we pulled back into the loading station and got ready for the hiss of brakes and the harness release, there's a total power failure. The ride music ended abruptly, and the lights went out. The sound of a klaxon aggressively filled the room. With a clunk the train dropped. I have no idea. Nothing made sense there. We plummeted vertically down at tremendous speed, hit metal, and rolled forward, into crisp night air. We were in some kind of quaint rural train station, with a single platform. It was hard to tell if this was somewhere outside the park, or a new themed area of the park, that we hadn't seen yet. The platform waiting room door opened, and an older lady in a smart trouser suit emerges with some urgency. She pushes a button to release the safety harnesses and says nervously, "Listen extremely carefully. We don't have much time. Walk with me as I talk." She led us into the waiting room, out of the cold, and down a long corridor with fluorescent strobe lighting. "My name is Dr. Annalise Freeman, and I'm the deputy park manager," she said, ushering us along the corridor. "You've probably guessed by now that we're running a series of tests here. There was a theory that the world ended in 2012, and similar theories that we may in fact be living in a simulation." We reached an elevator, and she pushed the call button. "Our systems are very sophisticated," she continued. "You are being monitored and tracked every step you take. Such systems, however, can malfunction, and there are only two occasions when you cannot be tracked: during a reboot, and during a system update. Right now, we are in a reboot scenario. You have 2 minutes and 27 seconds to exit the park, before you can be picked up by our systems again." The elevator arrived, and we entered as quickly as possible. Dr. Freeman pushed the button for level 8, suggesting that there's a whole other world of park under our feet. She continued, "I am a computer scientist. I agree with the testing. I just don't agree with doing it on unsuspecting members of the public. I'll ensure you get out of here, with one request, and this is very important. You may discuss your experiences here, but you must never, ever, ever, reveal how you left Broken Valley Amusement Park. To do so would expose me to my colleagues here. Is that understood?" We silently nodded. The elevator slowed to our destination. "But what about my wife and kids? And Chris and Kelly's friends?" asked David. "They'll need to wait for the next update or reboot, I'm afraid. Now. You have 90 seconds. Run as fast as you can, and don't stop until you've passed those exit turnstiles." I've been back in the UK for a week now. I'm obsessed with searching for more information. I discovered an online message board for theme park fans. There are countless discussion threads on Broken Valley Amusement Park. I remember it as Mega Drop. Does anyone remember it as Giga Splash? Was the Lunar Lunch Pad ever open? Mega Thread, share your Broken Valley experiences here. What's the creepiest thing to happen to you at Broken Valley? Anyone else spot the hysterical lady in the shantytown section? That one intrigued me. I opened it. Apparently, on every ride, a wailing hysterical old woman, in a gray dress would jump on the back of the car, and ride with you to the exit. She'd then be seen following you around the park. As promised. Nobody revealed who freed them from the park. I was thrilled days later when A knocked on my apartment door. I asked her if she got out during a reboot or a system update. Strangely, neither. A was pretty unpleasant and dismissive with me. She claimed to have not been with me on our American adventure holiday. "I couldn't afford to come with you," she protested. "Even your mom was concerned you were going to that American theme park by yourself. She pleaded with me to go with you." It made no sense. I relayed everything to her. "Don't you remember waiting for me for 2 hours? What about going to get my compensation? Do you remember falling out into the water?" Nothing. She remembered nothing. It's all a false memory. So, what are you saying? I have some kind of doppelganger, she asked. Yes. Yes, Angie, Amy, whatever your name is. To be honest, it didn't really surprise me. I'm still obsessed. I found out that Broken Valley has a Wikipedia entry. Broken Valley Amusement Park, founded in 1958, and closed to the public in 2011. From 2012 on, the site has been closed to the public and is now a military test center. I get it. I get it. I understand, I said to myself. It all became clear. I knew exactly what happened. We were all been lied to and we've.
System C. Windows System 32 Shutdown S.